Hello and welcome to Viper Bytes, the show where we will talk about everything and anything fantasy football relevant. You know what? It might not even be fantasy football relevant, but we're still going to talk about it. Today, we are going to focus on some training camp battles, and we're going to head to the AFC East, and more in particular, we're going to head to Foxborough to talk about some of the camp battles that are taking place there. Don't worry, we're going to hit New York, we're going to hit Miami, we're going to hit Buffalo, but first, let's start in Foxborough here, where the battle at quarterback is not quite the battle that I think we all think it might be between Cam Newton and Mac Jones. Early indications are that Bill Belichick loves himself some Cam Newton, that the faith is still in Cam Newton to have success, which is kind of funny because Bill Belichick and Cam Newton don't exactly have those personalities that you think would mesh together. But hey, here we are. It's 2021. Maybe Bill Belichick has turned a new leaf, and he's embraced the Cam Newton that we love. That said, Cam Newton's arm, even Mac Jones, when we're talking about his arm, it's not a bullet. It's not a rifle of an arm. He throws with touch. He throws with anticipation. Cam Newton's arm is not what it once was, but it's good enough to pick apart the underbelly of team defenses. So we'll see how this all shakes out as we go. The key here is how quickly Mac Jones can get accustomed to that McDaniels-type offense. And I don't see him grasping that playbook right off the get-go. In fact, I would be surprised if we see Mac Jones by mid-season, if at all, in 2021. If Cam Newton can stay healthy, I think he is the Patriots quarterback. And with everything that went through in 2020 with the Patriots, from the COVID opt-outs to the injuries to even Cam Newton not being 100% himself, I think this is Cam Newton's team for the present. But Mac Jones, who was the first overall pick in last year's draft, is the future. Now, where it's going to get really interesting is we talked about Mac Jones not having that arm strength. We know Cam Newton doesn't have that arm strength he once did. How is that going to affect this passing offense going forward? Well, let's talk about a lot of 12 personnel that the Patriots look to be running with the free agent acquisitions of both Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. You get two for the price of one. Hopefully they both can stay healthy, but we've seen in the past, Jonnu wasn't very healthy last year. Hunter has a little bit of injury concerns throughout his career. Can they both shake that off in 2021 with the Patriots? Here's hoping. If they can, what they do is form a valuable duo for Cam Newton, a little really great security blanket where they can pick apart the underbelly of team defenses. You got Jonnu Smith, who is a red zone mismatch left, right, and center. They will have in Tennessee. They handed him off the ball. They let him run a lot of under jet sweep type action. And Hunter Henry is a guy who can post you up in the back of the end zone as well. So that red zone offense with the threat of Cam Newton and him running every single opportunity he gets definitely will keep defenses focused on what's going on. Now, that said, they've got two wide receivers there in New England. One they brought in via free agency in Nelson Aguilar, and one that kind of led the team in receiving last year, Jacoby Myers, who we are already forgetting going into 2021. Who will lead this team in receptions? I really believe it's Nelson Aguilar's job to lose as far as the wide receiver one is concerned. Now, in tight end premium leagues and PPR leagues, I'd probably lean more towards Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry having that value. But Nelson Aguilar, if we're talking about teams that are going to be focusing on that underbelly of their defenses, Hunter Henry picks it apart, as Jonnu Smith picks it apart. That's going to leave Nelson Aguilar in a very similar role that what he had in Las Vegas last year, in which he was able to get that deep ball. Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, they softened up defenses underneath, and Nelson Aguilar was hit many times in stride by Derek Carr. Can Cam Newton replicate what Derek Carr did last year? I think it's plausible. I really do. So I think Nelson Aguilar is going to be that big play threat that New England didn't know that they had, and they definitely didn't have last year. Now, moving along to the New York Jets. We are finally talking about the Jets again. Jets football is alive and well. It is the preseason, though. So let's just pump the brakes a little bit. But everyone I'm talking to has rookie fever when it comes to the Jets. Zach Wilson, Elijah Moore, Michael Carter. Well, we're going to touch on Moore, and we're going to touch on Carter here in a little bit. But first, let's talk about Elijah Moore, that fever. He's going to be in a camp battle with Jamison Crowder off the get-go. Jamison Crowder was asked to take that pay cut in the offseason. We know Jamison isn't going to be there long. He's here for a good time, not a long time, so to speak. And Elijah Moore will take that role as that slot receiver at some point. I think Jamison Crowder holds on to that spot early on and provides a little bit of a security blanket for Zach Wilson going into 2021, at least for the first 4 weeks or so. And then it's going to be the Elijah Moore show. I really like Jamison Crowder, but you know what? You might get 4 weeks of him. After week 4, you get some production, time to sell and move on because Elijah Moore is coming and taking that role. Now, where things get interesting in the pass catchers for the New York Jets is at that tight end position. You've got incumbent there, Chris Herndon. You've got free agent acquisition, Tyler Kroft coming over from the Buffalo Bills. And you got Ryan Griffin, who was there last year as well. Ryan Griffin has a bit of injury history. Chris Herndon has disappointment all over him. And Tyler Kroft is really more of a blocking tight end that can give you some production offensively as needed. We take a look at Ryan Griffin in 2019. He had about 320 yards, 5 touchdowns with the Jets, which is acceptable, but it's not really giving you that fantasy relevancy. Tyler Kroft is more of that blocking guy, but we've seen in 7-7s and OTAs, he has been the featured guy. Him and Griffin have been running with the ones, with Tyler Kroft looking the part more so than anyone else. Chris Herndon, upside. We talk about him every year. He is the breakout player in 2018. Oh, he's going to be the breakout player in 2019. Well, 2020, it's got to be Chris Herndon's year. Well, 2021, we're coming full circle. We're talking Chris Herndon again. You know what? We talk about it. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, shame. What are we going to put the blame on ourselves here for drafting Chris Herndon? Pump the brakes. Avoid this position at all. But if you're in a premium league, maybe take a flyer on Tyler Kroft as a bye-week filler. Maybe. Chris Herndon, if you want to take that shot, go ahead, but prepare for the disappointment because he's been preparing you for the last few years anyway for disappointment. So you should be really used to it. I'm looking at some of my notes here. He is the most athletic. He is the one who's flashed the most. He is the best all around, but we have not seen that consistency. And availability is your best ability when we talk about the NFL, and he just hasn't been there. Moving on to that running back position, they brought in Mike LaFleur from the 49ers. That is something that is not understated when we talk about this Jets running game. That's going to be a running back by committee. They also brought in Tevin Coleman, who we'll touch base with in a little bit later, and Austin Watson. We talk about him as an option as well from the 49ers to the Jets, along with Robert Saleh. So you're going to have a very, very heavy 49ers influence in this running game. And we've seen this in the past where in 2020, they were 14th in rushing attempts. They were 16th in the passing game. During the Super Bowl run, I think that was even more impressive because they were about rushing the ball 32 times per game. And I think that's kind of what we're going to see here with the Jets, more of a focus on that run game. I think there's going to be a 1A and a 1B that emerge here in New York. 1B, 1A, no matter how you want to call it, Michael Carter is going to be one of those backs that are going to be featured in this offense. You're talking about the back who's the most explosive, has the draft capital to him, fun to watch, and he was excellent splitting time with Javonte Williams in North Carolina. And I don't think that can be understated enough as well, because when you have a back who has performed at a high level while splitting carries and getting you that production, you're hoping that's going to carry on. But now you got to try and find that proper blend. LaMichael P. Ryan is kind of that bruising back. He doesn't really fit Mike LaFleur and what he likes to do, and that's the problem. Mike LaFleur likes those backs that can catch the ball, be effective, split out to the slot, split out wide from time to time. I just don't see that with him. Ty Johnson, on the other hand, who has been there already, I think he has that ability. We've seen him carry the load in a small sample last year, be effective in the passing game, and be effective in the run game. But here's where I think it all comes down to. I think Tevin Coleman is going to be that 1A to Michael Carter's 1B because he has been in this offense since 2015. He knows like what Mike LaFleur is expecting of this running game. He knows what to do. He has been effective. He has flashed in the past. And I don't think that when you have a young team, you want that experience, not only in the passing game, but in the run game as well, where I think Tevin Coleman can be valuable to Zach Wilson and his growth going forward. So I think you're going to see a very heavy dose of Michael Carter, Tevin Coleman, maybe sprinkle in a little of Michael P. Ryan if he doesn't get cut. Josh Adams, you're definitely on the bubble this year, so he's not worth taking a look at. Ty Johnson is that guy, okay, you know what? Let's stash him. Maybe get a little stash and dash on him a little bit late in the season, but let's focus our love on Tevin Coleman because I think you could see a huge jump in his game in 2021. Moving along, we're heading down to South Beach now. Get that lotion out, get them trunks out. We're going to talk Miami Dolphins football. And make sure you got them glasses on because we got a need for speed in Miami, and I really believe that the Dolphins are going to unleash Tua in 2021. They went out and they drafted a former teammate of his who has some blazing speed, who plays with reckless control is the way best, because it's crazy, man. Jalen Waddle is running at speeds that are unheard of and making moves it's like a punt returner when he has the ball in his hands, no matter where he is on the field. He is a threat to score. You pair him up with Will Fuller, who will miss week 1, unfortunately, due to a PED suspension. There is a lot of speed in Miami, and that's just going to be on the outside. You can bring both these guys to the inside if you want. Waddle can play on the inside. Fuller can play on the inside. Fuller is that guy. We look at him as wide receiver 8 at one point last year before the suspensions. Fuller can get the job done when he is healthy. Then you put in some other little scat receivers there, Malcolm Perry, Lynn Bowden, and, mix in Joaquin Grant there from time to time. That's a lot of smaller kind of gadget type receivers as well. They're going to make things very interesting in this offense. We know with Waddle and Fuller, we're going to see a lot of Devontae Parker, who has been there for a while. But the fourth wide receiver option is going to get interesting. Between those smaller receivers we talked about, there's also Preston Williams. Preston Williams is a guy who I think we've forgotten about in fantasy football. When it was Williams and when it was Devontae Parker, the passing targets were kind of getting filtered towards Preston Williams while he was healthy. Let's not forget about that. Before Parker went off last year, Preston Williams was taking a lot of that target share away from Parker. So I think that's a guy we cannot forget moving into 2021. That said, he is my pick there to take over that wide receiver 4 role. And I'm excited to watch what Tua can do with these guys. You throw in Myles Gaskins in that back end, and this Miami Dolphins offense is for real. It's going to be fun to watch. You're not going to want to miss it. Now, Bills Mafia, I'm not done talking yet because we're going to head over to Buffalo here. We're going to talk about some things. I know you're concerned about your running backs, and I would be too. You've got Josh Allen as your QB1 / your running back 1. That's not going to change no matter how you look at it. Where it gets interesting for me is Devin Singletary, Zach Moss combined for 1,168 yards rushing last year. That was about 20th in the league. That's not good enough. You have a Super Bowl contention team every year with what you have already in place. You just need something out of that run game. And 1,100 yards is not what I'm calling something as a whole, between those two at least. The problem with Singletary and Moss is they do not have that home run threat. Singletary's shifty. Moss is that bruising back. They don't have that home run threat until now. Matt Breida, welcome to Buffalo. We've seen you in San Francisco. We've seen spots of you in Miami. We know you can break off a big run from anywhere on the field. You have that experience. You've hit those 80-yard home runs. You've hit those 75-yard home runs. Well, guess what? Between Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, the biggest run they were able to bust off was a Singletary 51-yard scamper. And that's just not that home run potential that you're looking for. If you're looking for, you got Diggs out there. You've got Gabriel Davis. You had John Brown last season. You had Cole Beasley. You've got these guys working it. You got a good passing game. There's no reason for these running backs not to be able to get into that second and third level with a little bit more consistency, and we haven't seen that. Matt Breida, I think, is that guy you're going to want to roster because Zach Moss is going to have that role in short yardage regardless of how you look at it. Devin Singletary, I think you're on the bubble for a roster spot here. Maybe not a roster spot, but for playing time for sure, because I do believe that Matt Breida will take over for Singletary because they need that home run potential, especially in 2021, especially when they're going against teams like the Chiefs that you're looking to try and keep up with on the scoreboard. That said, let's move on to where the big points are scored in Buffalo, and that's at that wide receiver position. We know Stephon Diggs. He's that alpha dog. There ain't no doubt. We ain't questioning who the number 1 receiver is. But where it gets kind of interesting is who's the 2, who's the 3, who's the 4. We know who the names are. We know it's Emmanuel Sanders. We know it's Cole Beasley. And we know it's Gabriel Davis. Davis has everything that you're looking for in that wide receiver 2. He's a big body. He can run. He can make those contested catches. He's what you want there. I don't know if he's quite there ready to take over that wide receiver 2 role, but we'll see. Cole Beasley did it last year. He did a very effective job. I think he was an all-pro last year to go with it. Except where is he going to be this year? There's talks about him potentially not playing due to the whole vaccination kind of thing. And if he's there, I think he could be that wide receiver 2. But here's my pick here right now. Emmanuel Sanders. We saw Sanders step up last year when Michael Thomas was missing time in New Orleans. Emmanuel Sanders has that ability to play inside, play outside, and still be effective. He's one of the best route runners in the National Football League, and that's something that you cannot take for granted. He's 34 years old. He hasn't quite slowed down yet. I think if you're in redraft, Emmanuel Sanders is a guy you're going to be able to target late in drafts who's going to give you that value and outperform that ADP that he's currently seeing right now. Now, I think if we cannot see Matt Breida or Zach Moss or Devin Singletary improve in that backfield, we're going to see a lot of 4 wide receiver sets. I think you're going to see a lot of Diggs and Gabriel Davis on the outside. I think you're going to see Sanders and Beasley on the inside, which is going to be really fun and exciting to watch, with Josh Allen probably doing a lot of draw plays to get in the end zone. For me, Breida is definitely a guy worth rostering. I think Emmanuel Sanders is a guy you want to roster that you're going to be able to get later in drafts. In fact, I don't know how many people right now are taking a chance on Matt Breida. I know I'm going to go check my waivers as soon as I get off this show right now and make sure he is not available, because I'm going to scoop him up right away, because I do believe that this is a make or break for Singletary this year. And if he cannot find a role with some consistency, Breida will be the guy that they're going to look for those home runs. And Emmanuel Sanders, consistency. So just kind of a recap here. Firm believer, Cam Newton will keep the job there in New England. He'll beat out Mac Jones. I don't think there's much of competition there. I think it's more of a media thing creating that. That wide receiver is wide open in New England right now. I think Nelson Aguilar will be the guy that you want to get there. Again, great value ADP-wise. Jacoby Myers is one of those guys, maybe a sleeper, a stash and dash, because he was the guy that led the receiving last year. The Jets, man, lots of fun going on there. Elijah Moore will eventually supersede there. Jamison Crowder. I think the tight end battle is going to be a little bit interesting there. Something to watch. Tyler Kroft, I think, has got the inside track now based on 7-on-7s and OTAs. Chris Herndon does have the greater upside of the 3 tight ends there. And we're looking at a 1A, 1B. I think Tevin Coleman is going to see a good value for him right now. Another guy that's going to outperform his ADP, along with Michael Carter, as a 1A, 1B kind of tandem there in that committee approach with the Jets. Thanks in large part to that relationship with Mike LaFleur and what he's been able to do in his time in the NFL already. Moving over Miami, we know Waddle, we know Fuller, we know Devontae Parker are going to get theirs. Preston Williams, I think, holds down that number 4 spot there in Miami. And then again in Buffalo, look out for Breida, look out for Emmanuel Sanders. And you know what? Look out for more videos here, because we got plenty more coming down. We're going to go break down every division in the National Football League. We started here at the AFC East. We're going to go all the way around the horn through these training camp battles. And then we're going to talk a little bit more as the season goes on. But make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button. You know what? Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.